Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel, and in today's video I want to talk about the new patch that went out last night. This affects PvP a lot, and even PvE players, there is some things for you. I will have timestamps below if you want to skip ahead to your school or anything that may interest you. In general, I want to say this update is probably like a 9 out of 10. Really good stuff by KI. I just kind of wish they would get these updates out a bit faster. Firstly, I want to talk about the general things that is going to affect everybody in the game, and this is going to be the fact of the matter that spell elements are now actually able to be reset with gold. So basically any spell element you have, you can reset it for 2,000 gold now. It used to be 100 crowns, which was really annoying. I personally spent probably thousands, tens of thousands just shifting spell elements between meta to meta. This is something the community's been asking for, and it's really nice that KingsIsle implemented it in this patch. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be the gambits, and they all kind of got reevaluated to my understanding. So let's take a look at these new gambits. Weakness gambits actually got nerfed quite a bit. Storm Oni went from 2,500 to about 2,100 now. Thundering Jin got a damage buff, but they unfortunately did the mistake where they go 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Yes, the card is good, 2k for 7 pips, but the problem is if you can never actually meet the condition because the cards aren't there to meet the condition, it doesn't matter how good the card is. I'm sure everyone would just love to grow wings and fly someday, but it's the same thing here, right? Everyone would love to do 2k damage for 7 pips, but the issue is you can never reasonably get those hots on time. And if you do, all they have to do is click a counter once, and then the game is over and your whole strat falls apart. So not a good change. Shield gambits also got nerfed by about 100 damage, I want to say. I will have some images up on screen if you guys want to look at them right now, just looking at all the gambits in the game right now for every school and stuff like that. A couple of the ramps got changed as well. Very minor tweaks to them. They're still not really that good. Would not recommend using any of them. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all the general things. Now let's get into the school specific things. On my storm, these are the things I found that are new and that got changed, and that is simply going to be Storm Shark. Storm Shark actually got nerfed down from 800 to 625, so a pretty big nerf there. This card was never really used at max level unless you're like a low rank player and people never packed the counters. At low level, I did hear that Storm Shark was pretty good though, so maybe they changed it in regards to the low level feedback. Next up, Teacup. Teacup actually got changed to 3 gambits instead of 2, which you would think you'd get 3 for 3, but it's actually 3 for 2, which is actually a net nerf for Teacup, right? So this basically does not change anything. If Teacup was Gambit 3 blades for 3 hots, which is what it should be, then you can make a justification for a strat to make it work, but this card still just isn't good, not worth using at all. Next up on the fire, we actually have a couple of interesting changes. Now, fire actually got a damage buff to Brimstone, which I think is interesting. This card used to be 485 at max tier, and now it's 510. So just a pure damage buff on Brimstone. This was already a meta card. If you're on a fire, you should be packing max of these now. Fire Elf also got buffs to clear 2 shields and also give 2 dots. But keep in mind, an elf does not set up your gambit anymore because you need 3 to gambit instead of 2, which is what we're kind of used to, right? Also, Fire finally got some TC bans like Afreet and Sun Serpent. These were just breaking the game because they have nothing to do with Fire's new school identity of Rochambeau. Deathly Depths got a buff on the ice. This card is just bad by default, so I think buffing it was probably one of the worst things they could have done, and unfortunately there's not really anything else I see that ice got within this update. They did get a treasure card ban to Woolly Mammoth, which was again banned because it is simply above Ice's damage per pip. On a balance, you had a couple of new things. One of the most coolest things I want to say is Lore Master. You can basically customize your spell very extensively, which I think is really good. You can hit in weakness, hit and mantle, or hit and do both, but at a lesser value. I would really like to see spellements go down the direction of just having multiple paths like this, especially with the gold reset. I think that'd be really good. I hope to see KI do that in the future. Hydra also got like a little bit of a damage buff, only by like 10 or 15, I want to say. And you also echo 5 shields now instead of 4, so a bit of a buff there on Hydra. Then obviously we have Chimera and Sabretooth that were banned because they were way above damage balance per pip. Myth actually got a pretty good buff, which I think is going to actually affect the other schools more than it actually affects Myth. And that's going to be Minotaur Path B. This spell clears 4 shields now instead of 3 and gives you 40% buffs instead of 30. So basically they added 1 extra clear to try and keep up with the tempo, and then added 10% potency on the trap itself. Stone Colossus also got a buff. It clears 4 instead of 3 now, and the detonate actually goes off faster, which I think actually was a good quality of life change, because I think waiting 5 rounds for a deferred dot on a myth kind of felt like it took forever, right? So I think that was a good change, speeding up the match for Myth Wizards. But I don't really understand why they buffed this card, right? It's already one of the meta-defining cards that makes Myth so broken. And then finally, what players have been waiting for is a Basilisk ban. This card was absolutely destroying the meta, and it's good to see it's out. Basically, it would hit, stun you, and then you couldn't counter it, and it would do like 3/4 of your health bar with a buff or 2. It was incredibly broken, and I'm glad to see it gone. And then we also have a banned Earthquake as well, so you can't just Earthquake Blade Stack off now. You have to actually pack the counters. Now, the community's been hitting on Death a lot recently because of how broken and oppressive it's been, and unfortunately, this update is not really going to be fixing any of that. One good thing is they actually nerfed Ghoul, I guess. Put quotation marks around nerf on Ghoul because it's not really a nerf, but basically you gambit a shield for a 55 blade now. So they essentially made a Storm Beetle, but put it on a Death, and it drains, and it's way more powerful. This makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know why they did it really, but yeah. This card is still probably going to be used in the meta, just incredibly overtuned. But the old Ghoul, the one that gave 2 blades, being gone is good because it'll slow things down a little bit more and make it a little bit less formulaic for the Death, but this card is still going to be absolutely insane because the tempo. Monster Mash, we actually saw a buff to this. You can actually Gambit 3 weaknesses for extra damage now. It used to be Gambit 1, but now it's 3, so it's actually a really cool card, and you can get a lot of damage out of it now. And you guys actually won't believe it, but they actually buffed Wraith. Yeah, they buffed Wraith. You heard that right. They buffed Wraith before they nerfed Drains. I don't know what's going on here, guys. Okay, but this Gambit's 3 blades for basically 3 stuns, as opposed to 2 blades for 2 stuns. So they just added an extra turn of stun essentially on the Wraith, and they also buffed the damage on bottom path Wraith as well. So don't really know what the hell they're thinking here. Death is still easily going to be the #1 school because all this stuff just doesn't really change much. The plan is still the same on a Death Wizard. And lastly, on the Death, they banned Skeletal Dragon TC, which is pretty cool because, again, it does not follow any of the identity. And then lastly, on the Life Wizard, there is 2 things. One, Rebirth is actually copy limited like Regenerate now, so Jading won't be as viable. Rebirth, as you can see, has a copy limit right here with a ×1, which is pretty freaking cool. Also, another thing I actually noticed is life heals actually got sped up. So basically, a life Goat Monk is going to heal them a lot quicker and give you less time to pull for the counter. So I want to say this is like a net buff to regular life. I mean, just a net buff to life in general, right? Because the one good thing about Goat Monk being like 5 rounds was like you had time to pull for the counter, and you could actually have time to kill them. But now that this card is going faster, you're gonna have less time to kill them and less time to pull the counter, therefore it's a buff. So yeah, I'd say Jading Life got a nerf, and then regular life got a pretty good buff with Guild Monk. And yeah, that's everything for the video that is new that I found. If I missed anything, let me know down there in the comments below, guys. In general, I think this update is really solid. There's a couple things I'm concerned about, but we'll have to see what happens, and maybe the meta will shift and all. But I am looking forward to streaming the game again and trying out the meta, because I haven't really been streaming the past couple of days or week because the game just hasn't been fun. But there's a new update out, so I'll probably do that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, leave a like and a sub, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you for watching, and take care, y'all.